5 myths about hiking boots.
There's so much fear-mongering about what you need to be wearing on your feet to stay safe in the mountains. It's time to clear up a couple of myths and misconceptions about hiking boots. Hey, I'm Chase Mountains and I help hikers with knee pain. And it's thanks to footwear like this that I have a job. But in this video, we're going to talk about why you should be making the transition back to natural footwear and starting to use your feet and ditch the boot. When I started my career working in outdoor shops and fitting boots, I found myself pretty much parroting the same kind of nonsense without having really any idea about what I was talking about when it comes to the foot. So in this video, I want to teach you a couple of things about the foot and dispel some of these big myths about hiking footwear. Myth 1 is that boots like this with a high stack height and a really rigid sole are somehow going to protect you from the environment underneath your foot. But in reality, all it does is take away the sensory information that's coming through the bottom of the foot. And personally, for me, I like to be able to feel the trail underneath my foot because it's that information that's keeping me upright and moving me forward in the mountains. And this is a perfect example. Hiking boots are always talking about getting the most traction. Your foot is the perfect hiking tool. And this kind of shoe that can actually move is giving you just the right amount of protection, but still allowing the foot to be able to move and do its job. Have a look at the difference in traction and purchase that I can get in a Vivo, where the foot is wrapping around the object that I'm stepping on. I've got all of these sensory points in the foot. We do the same with a rigid boot. It's not really moving anywhere and it's actually incredibly unstable. Second myth that I want to talk about, and this is a big one that you hear all the time. What about ankle support? You need ankle support. Look, in my opinion, take it or leave it. That's complete nonsense. The ankle should be able to support itself. There's no amount of leather and rubber that's going to stop you from rolling your ankle if it's going to happen. But if it does happen, you need to have mobility and stability and strength in the ankle. In a Vivo, you have a round surface where you can smoothly roll off onto the outside of your ankle. In a rigid boot, it's either all or nothing. You're either snapping your ankle or you're solid on your foot. There's nothing in between. And actually, boots that have a really high stack height makes the risk of rolling the ankle even worse. So that's my opinion on that one. All right, myth number 3. This is a bit of a secret. You hear people say this all the time. If you're carrying a heavy pack, well then you definitely need a rigid, supportive boot. Here's my opinion on this. It's more about graded exposure and slowly building up your ability in carrying a heavy pack than it is about what you're wearing on your feet. If your system works well in a barefoot shoe, you can gradually load it to do whatever you want. There is no limit here. You can carry a heavy pack, still wear a barefoot shoe. Myth number 4. The fourth myth is about protection from the cold. I think most people's experience in wearing boots in cold weather is in a rigid boot where the boot's tied really tight and cutting off your circulation. A lot of people think that in a barefoot shoe, because they're closer to the ground, they're going to be colder. And yeah, that might be true if there's less distance between the snow and your foot, for example. But from my experience, I like to be able to move my foot around inside the shoe and create more heat. When you've got a very rigid boot, especially when it's tied really tight, it can often cut off circulation, and that can be super dangerous if you're in a cold environment. I would much prefer to be able to move my own foot and generate a little bit of warmth. Okay, before we do the last myth, there's an idea in hiking, a bit of a story from my personal experience, and it's probably similar to yours. There's this idea in hiking that it's normal to have blisters, that it's normal to have squished toes, or it's normal to have plantar fasciitis or rolled ankles. And it's actually just not the case. I stopped wearing boots completely when I was really young, and I just started wearing trail runners or normal shoes, and I figured out actually this is entirely possible and I don't have to go through the pain of wearing a stiff, rigid boot. But I was so happy when the Vivo Barefoot Tracker came out. I think it was in 2020, and I was like, this is the perfect balance. We don't have to sacrifice anything else. There's still traction, there's still leather, there's still protection, there's still warmth. All the things that you want in a boot are still there, but we don't have to deal with all of the problems that come from traditional hiking footwear. It's a new era, and it's something that hopefully, if you try, you're going to love, and it's going to be a completely different hiking experience for you from then on. Let's get into the last myth. Okay, the fifth and final myth. People will say, well, I can wear barefoot shoes for a short day hike, but for a long hike, I definitely need a more supportive traditional shoe. And to them, I would say you need to gradually expose yourself to slightly longer hikes in barefoot shoes. If you can do it for a day hike, you can probably do it for a longer hike. I know through hikers that are doing 500 and 1,000 miles wearing barefoot shoes, and they absolutely love it. You have to slowly, carefully dip your toes into the barefoot world, and you have to use graded exposure so your body gets used to it over time. Don't try and go from zero to hero. You need to respect your feet, respect your body, and let the changes happen over time. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Chase Mountains. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, you can click a video right here and check out the mini course that I did with Vivo Barefoot. You can see it in the link in the description or click right here to learn about it. I'll see you on the summit.